And I want to thank everybody for tuning in for another edition of Hoops Hidden Gems podcast. I'm your host, David Jones. I want to thank you guys, as usual, for tuning in. Episode number 81. Man, we've come a long way in these 3 years. Tonight's show is no different. Got another great guest as usual. Man, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to bring on Coach Kevin Harrod. How you doing today, Coach? I mean, man, it's so good to have you on, who is the new head coach at Florida Memorial University, HBCU down in Florida. How you doing today?
David, I'm just great, man. I'm just thank you for having me today. Just because we're glad to be on your show.
Listen, it's a blessing to have you on. I've been following what you've been doing. You're new at Florida Memorial. You came from Langston, where you made plenty of noise, taking your team to the NAIA tournament. And, I wanted to bring you on to talk about Florida Memorial for the people that aren't familiar with the school. Let's jump right into it. Tell us about Florida Memorial University.
Yeah, man, it's just a great opportunity to be here at Florida Memorial University. It's the only HBCU in South Florida, which is great. Only about 25 minutes from South Beach. That's nice. Great people. I got to tell you, it's one of the most diverse, multicultural HBCUs that I've ever seen. You have a little bit of everything here, which to me, it just only expands the experience for any student athlete that wants to be a part of that. It mirrors what the workforce looks like, which I love. It's great down here. So just excited about the opportunity that AD Jason Horn has given me. Dr. Erica LaFleur as assistant AD and Dr. Hardrick, our president here. So just ready to get the ball rolling, so to speak.
And so for people that don't know about Florida Memorial, you're an NAI school, and what conference are you in down there?
We are in the Sun Conference. So pretty good conference. Some of the schools, Southeastern University, great institution. St. Thomas University, great institution. That's literally across the street. So that's a nice rivalry to have from what I've heard. Warner, Kaiser University. So those are some of the schools that are here. Good conference all up and down Florida, and just excited and ready to get it together.
Absolutely. And so, with you coming from, for people that don't know, you came from, Langston University, and, you took them to the NAIA tournament, and, you had Langston moving and grooving, so to speak, and, which was impressive, which was, probably one of the biggest reasons you were selected by Florida Memorial. What type of ball are you going to bring to Florida Memorial? What's the style you want to bring there?
Well, for us, prior to, I got to bring up Talladega College in Alabama, one of the oldest HBCUs in Alabama. That's where I got my start. That's where I got also alma mater there. I was there for 15 years, all-time winningest coach there. And really, the players did a great job. At a point, I was an athletic director and a basketball coach. But that's really where I learned my style, honed my style. I had a great mentor in Romeo Lugmai, great coach. And what I brought to Langston was a lot of what we did at Talladega, which is we play fast-paced pressure, 94 feet. We, really pride ourselves in being the most intense, most in shape team, most disciplined. And we're a hybrid team. A lot of teams, they can play fast, but they can't play in a half court. We're disciplined to play that as well. And that's what you'll see, at Florida Memorial. At FMU, you're going to see, it's exciting when you play that fast. It looks chaotic sometimes, but it's organized chaos, as we like to call it.
Okay.
But it's a brand of basketball that's very, very difficult to beat, because you have to be in shape, and if you're not, then we kind of take over. So that's what you'll see this year.
Understood. And as you can see, we're having the listeners, you never know who's watching this show. But that's one of my guys right there, Coach Huff, Edward Waters, as we were talking backstage. That's my guy right there. I didn't know you knew him. That's my guy right there. So if he speaks highly of you, you get a good check mark right there, definitely.
Good people.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So in regards to, like I said, you're bringing that, as you say, controlled chaos to Florida Memorial. What are you really looking for when you go out and recruit? What type of players are you looking for?
Man, it's funny you say that, because recruiting is it's the hardest thing to do, and I think even now in this era, it's even harder, to find the type of players that you're looking for. So for me, it's not about just stats. You can find plenty of kids that have numbers, but for me, I'm not looking for like 2 or 3 signature players that can get it done. I'm looking for, like-minded individuals that want to become a team. So for me, I look for players that have good body language, that are accountable, that are disciplined, that are mature, that they have their own discipline. Something that, like for us, we talk about having a player-led team. I don't want it to be a coach-led team. I want it to be a player-led team. So, because we will never put on a jersey. I will never put on a Florida Memorial jersey at all. So when adversity hits in games, they don't always have to look over the side to me. They're already trained and understanding, because of the program that we have and what we train them in. They're confident and they understand what they need to do. So those are some things that I look for. And also from the academic side, I look for, student athletes. You just can't just be in the gym, and expect to get it done. That's just one part of it. The time management is a big deal. So I look for student athletes, literally student athletes that, that do well in the classroom, and they want to do more than just basketball when the ball is done, because a part of being a coach is really to serve. And if you're not able to serve your student athletes, it's probably not the position you want to be as a head coach. A lot of people, they think, coaching is, we all want to get on the court, but 90% of what you do is mentoring, teaching, guiding them on the journey and the path, for their collegiate. So those are some of the things that I look for.
Okay. And you're leading right into my next question. So at Florida Memorial, any student athletes that are listening right now that are possibly interested in the school, what's the required GPA that you need to get into Florida Memorial?
2.5 to get in. That's what they look for. For me, yeah, you may start out at 2.5, but we look for you to be better than that once you get in.
Okay.
And like we said, we understand, things happen, but again, we look for excellence. We want you to strive for excellence, but that's the starting point.
Okay. Okay. And I can totally agree with what you're saying, because a lot of times when you're at that 2.5, it's not to say you can't make it, because at the end of the day, it comes down to you, but you prefer, to look for those higher GPAs because you feel better that they'll be able to handle that workload, as well as, on court as well, because you do have to be able to, handle both at the same time, especially when the season starts.
Yeah, most people can't do this. And I and I understand. Like, there are people that can play the game, they can get it done, but being able to do both, through, the amount of work that you do, the individual work, the film, watching film, we have our film sessions, then, you do your strength and conditioning, then you have your practice, then you have school, and being able to balance all of that is not easy. And for us being in Miami, know, uh, it just takes it up another notch. So again, you want to be able to find people that understand, there's some discipline and all of that. Not easy,
Absolutely.
So I am looking
You
for
hit that right on the head in Miami. You definitely hit that on the head, man. And I know you use that to your advantage for anybody that comes to visit. But this in Miami? Oh shoot! And like you probably have to reel them in. Like, now hold on. Now you here for school now, not the party.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think again, when you go through the process of profiling student athletes, and you're looking at you can tell a lot just by the conversation that you start off with, and then you look at the GPAs, you look at what programs they're at. That's another thing I look at. I mean, what type of program are you coming from? Does that program, and that system that they have, does it flow into what you do? Because everybody doesn't do the same things. So, I mean, because you want to look at retention, especially in the era that we're in with people that transfer all the time. I know it's just it's a part of the business now, but if you can minimize that, and you don't have as much turnover, obviously your team, it can be better, and then you can have a sustainable program and not just like, well, I did well this year, but, next year I'm not so sure. We got to start it all over again. So, like I said, those are things that are important.
Man, boy, you just touched something, I might as well open that one up right now, man. In the times we are in right now, you just said it with transfers. So I know everybody wants to go older. Are you looking for JUCO? Are you looking for transfer portal? Are you looking high school? Are you looking for a mix? What is your key to success when you're recruiting?
Listen, I look at it like this. So, for example, like when I moved from Langston, to FMU, one of the questions somebody asked me, they said, well, man, you had a really good year. You guys did well. Were you just going to bring the whole team over? You're going to bring everybody over? And I was like, my response to that was, well, we did do well. But we didn't win a championship. And the whole thing for me is, if I just did what I did last year, that's not good enough. You always want to be better than you had. So, and I always tell my players this: if I'm not trying to recruit better than you, then we will stay the same. So for me in recruiting, again, what's important is you have to do your homework. You can't be just looking at numbers and, oh, that person has good numbers, let me just get them just because of that. You really have to educate, the student athlete, the player, on what you're looking for, because the turnover happens when it's come in, they don't really know what their role is. So that right there is putting them down another track. So they need to know what their role is. They need to understand what your program is about. Do they fit in your system? So that it takes that much attention to detail when you're profiling kids, you're looking at kids, because there's tons of kids that you see every day. Like, man, I want to get this kid, but just look deeper than that.
On the surface, it's attractive.
On the surface, it looks great. I mean, sometimes student athletes, they don't want to go away that far from home. So you got to find out, or some students haven't been far away from home at all. So it's new to them. They get homesick. So you really have to like drill down on what's going to work for you in your program.
Now, with you saying that, and you sound like you do a lot of research, you do a lot of background checks. This leads into that next question. Have you X'd a kid off of your list from off the court stuff, social media posts, or you see how they act at an AAU tournament, or they see them how they act at a high school game? Have you come in, and of course, I'm not saying name any kids, but have you come across that in your time?
Happens all the time. It happens all the time. It could be, whatever. Put it like this: whatever you allow in your program, whatever it is, positive or negative, that's in your program now. Okay. And it'll affect. So if it's positive, it's positively going to affect your team. If it's negative, it's negatively going to affect your team. So if you see, a kid that's got bad body language, that's just not a one-time thing. I mean, especially if you're watching them over time. You don't watch just one game, you watch 2, 3, 4 games. If you continue to see that, that's not something that you want. Well, that's not something that I want. Yeah, I also look at something that not a lot of coaches look at. I look at the parents. How are they in the stands? I'm not just recruiting the player, I'm also recruiting the parents because I'm going to have a direct connection with them too. So how that stuff plays a big part in it. And there's sometimes I've gone the opposite direction because of it. So it happens a lot. But again, you have to do the work. You have to do the work to identify the right type of player that's going to work for you in your program.
That's a great nugget right there. And, I might have to clip that right there because, unfortunately, that's why I asked that, because a lot of these parents and a lot of the prospects don't understand how important that is. The off the court, everybody thinks, oh, I just go to an AAU tournament and I throw up 30 in front of you. You're going to automatically be like, hey, sign me up. Does that catch your attention? Yes. But if those parents are up there all over the coaches, all over the refs, screaming, loud, obnoxious, you're going to think twice, like, boy, that person can play, but do I really want that? Like, as you said, in my program, do I have to deal with that if she has a bad game? Do I get the phone call, coach, and I institute more plays for my kid? I need more plays to go to my kid. Nobody wants that, and sometimes that's not the kid's fault, but it's a direct reflection of, like you say, the family in general. And everybody understands that they love their kid and they want their best for their kid, but those type of distractions, you don't need that during the season, and it's just not good. Like you said, that's something that affects the whole team, is what they don't realize.
And I think, David, which is just, I mean, you could do a whole show on it, but if you think of a kid that's been in AAU for a few years, they start in middle school, they're working their way up. Just think about how much of what they're exposed to and what they're seeing. So guess what? All of those things that you're talking about now becomes normalized. That's normal to them. So by the time they get in, high school, when they get into college, and you're wondering why, they act the way they do, because that's what they've been around that. And so it's tough. So, anytime I get to talk to, high school students, middle school students, when I'm asked to go and, talk to kids, I do talk about that stuff, because some of them generally just think that's how things are. They clip everything off of ESPN or what they see in college, and, or the, AAU, and they think that's how things are. But look at where those kids are, see if they're staying at the same school. I mean, because no one really wants to leave, wants to transfer. Nobody really wants to. That's not the end goal. It's not like you said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to this school, and when I get there, I'm going to leave after a year or two. That's not really what it is. People really want to stay there, but then, things happen. So I think that's a part of really being able to find out, like, just on the AAU circuit, I look at stuff like that and I really pay attention to it.
And ask those questions because, the importance of all of that, like you said, it's so much more than just basketball. Yes, you're coming there, to help the team win, but, are you going to be a value addition to the Florida Memorial family as a student? Are you going to be a valued addition when you guys are traveling in the airport and, representing the school? I always bring all that up because, that reflects not on you, it reflects on the university, it reflects on the president. They don't want that negative press either.
And I think one of the things you asked me, what do I look for? Do I look for more freshmen? Do I look for more JUCO or 4-year transfers? It really just comes down to the character. I'll say that I just signed 2 phenomenal freshmen this coming up fall. Heaven Jordan and Kalia Frazee. And they just happen to be freshmen, and they're
Heaven
mature.
Jordan from Louisiana?
Yes, sir.
Listen, listen. So I'm out there when I was like, wait a minute, I know that name. I know
Yes,
that
sir.
name. Yes,
So
he
she
can
just signed.
go, man.
She just
Congratulations
she
on that one.
Yeah, she just signed today, so she's in. So you
Wow.
know what I'm saying? Like that's a kid that she's a hard worker, does great in school, really wants. I mean, if you ask me, I think she was overlooked a lot, and they
Yes,
looked at
she
her
was.
side. And
Yeah.
to me, as I told her, I said, you don't need to be validated. Listen. I respect what you do, and what she does is special, and the country's
Hmm.
about to find out how special she really is. So,
You got a steal on that one there. Listen, I'll be the first to tell you.
absolutely. That's why I said on Twitter the other day, I just said, we're quietly building something special because, I'm not really about, I'm pretty humble about it all. But I mean, because, you know, I don't need to put everything out there, but I know what we're looking for. I know what to look for. Until I find it, I won't grab anything else until I find what I'm looking for. So, like I said, junior college players, there's some great junior college players out there, some great 4-year transfers. Sometimes you get, you look on that board over here, there's all these D1 transfers,
Yeah.
and they just didn't get a chance to play, for whatever reason. They don't have the stats. So again, you got to do the work. They got to come on in, or you got to fly out there and really, drill down and check them out. But I don't really like, it's not a classification. Um, it's not whether they're freshman, junior. It's none of that. It's really about their character and what you feel that they can contribute to your program.
And that's a great analogy that you brought up. Now, but I will say this: you are in Florida, and you are in
Mm-hmm.
one of the best JUCO places
Whew,
for. So
fire
you
here.
you definitely got. I mean, there's some really good ones from Florida Southwestern to Daytona CC.
Miami
There's a
Dade,
number
right?
of them down there. Number of good ones.
Absolutely. So here's my thing, David. I've been here 15 days. I will make sure that I get to touch everybody. And here's another thing. There's some great high schools out here. Some phenomenal high.
Oh
I mean,
yeah. Oh
there's some great schools, and I can't wait to like meet the coaches, meet their programs, because there's so many out here. And if you can, my thing is this, and when you're building a program, you know, you do want to look in state, because the more you grab out of state, and there's nothing wrong with that, but when you're talking about getting the support, I've been at places where, like at Talladega, it was a perfect example. You know, there was a lot. It was hard to like recruit there in the very beginning. We had to like do a lot. So most of our student athletes were from out of state, California, a lot of the West Coast. So no one knew who those kids were. We were winning, but nobody knew who they were. So
yeah.
one of the things I had to learn was, yeah, you may have to start on the outside, but you definitely want to get on the inside in your state, and have people stay at home and get them in your program, because you can build amazing stuff when you have that support, that community support. So I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and boy, you touched that. I only mentioned the JUCOs, but yes, there's some great prep programs there. Of course, you have
Absolutely.
IMG, you got Mount
Mm-hmm.
Verde. I mean, you're loaded in Florida. I mean, and the grassroots programs that are there as well. The Miami
Yes.
Suns. There's a lot of great basketball, like you said, right there, just in the state of Florida, and even the states that are right around that are close. You have great basketball in Georgia. You have a lot of people, I call it a hidden gem. South Carolina has some great basketball as well. And of
I'll be
course, you
out there
already know
too.
about Alabama. You already know
Yes.
Alabama has some good ball
Alabama's,
as well.
yeah, Alabama, South Carolina. I mean, like everywhere has got some special players, and special programs. I can't wait to get out there. And there's some coaches in just some of the states you've talked to that I've already spoken to, and I can't wait to get to them.
Definitely. Now, just touching on some more of the educational stuff, what is Florida Memorial known for in regards to some of their majors that stand out, when you're recruiting?
A lot of biology, science, math. They're huge in it, excellent in those. But like on the other side, they have phenomenal business administration. They have great criminal justice. So, I mean, and one of the things when I first got here, I didn't realize they had an aviation program here.
Okay.
So to see that is amazing. To see students flying planes, it's just that's amazing to me. It's not something I mean usually you see everywhere. So those are just a few things that make it special. But like I said, you can get, and this is the other thing. Just in the 15 days I've been here, it reminds me of a real Southern feel. Like the fact that anybody will come up to you, say hello, hi. There's really no strangers. It makes it feel good. I had a recruit ask me, well, what's it like being on on an HBCU campus? What is that like to you? I said the best way I could describe it is I said, when you're not home, your antennas are kind of up and you're kind of like looking around, just making sure everything is good. I said, but then when you get home, your antennas go down, and you're at home. You feel good. I said, that's exactly what it feels like being at FMU. Like your antennas
it's a
are
family
down.
atmosphere, basically.
It's a family
atmosphere.
Right. You don't feel like like you don't belong. Like that's a great feeling to have when you're at school, because now you can grow out of that. You don't have any anxiety. You feel good. You feel safe. And this is a great place to do that here.
I like that. And, as you get to this, and, I know Coach Walker right across the street at St. Thomas, they're doing a good job as well. So, that conference you're in, you're going to be battle tested. Definitely you're going to be battle tested. Let me ask this, and, I always ask this as well, do you stack your scholarships? Is it, half academic, half athletic, or how does that work for Florida Memorial?
Again, we have we just have a phenomenal athletic department. We have a great yes, I will tell Mr. Hart and Coach Thomas. Absolutely will tell him, Golf. But it can be done in a multiple of ways. So yeah, you can stack. We're a fully funded program. You can stack. So that helps academically, financial aid. There's other ways where, if you're absolutely just a rock star, then, there's other ways to make sure that we can cover that. So that's why you can.
Yeah. And that leads into the next question as well. So, of course, you're fully funded. Do you have presidentials as well?
I believe so. We do. So
and I'm asking all these questions. So so for the listeners, as they get, they're listening to your program, how important it is. Yeah, you said that 2.5, but how important it is to have that 3.5 and up so you can qualify for that presidential money.
So I look at it like this, it's like credit. The better your grades are, the more access you have to money. So if everybody wants to access, so that's I know people, they go like, man, just get some good grades. Well, no, yes, it is, but there's a positive side to all of it, and I think that's a great piece. Like, you get the access to be able to go to school and possibly go debt free.
Exactly. I ask those questions because, and it's never to put you on the spot. It's the importance for these, prospects to understand, especially the high school ones. When you're coming in, if you have those grades, you take care of business, this is what can happen.
I think sometimes student athletes, this is what they do. They say, man, you know what? They lean on the sport so much.
Yes.
And they don't lean on the grades, because they think, again, it's normalized. They think, oh, full rides, I can get this and get it. Well, you gotta lean on the academics, because you don't know if you're gonna get hurt. You don't know, if somebody's gonna be better. At the end of the day, you trying to, minimize any debt. You want to have things covered. And the best way to do that is, you may not have the best jump shot, but you could definitely have the best grades. And so that's something 100%. You can really look at.
And Coach Huff, he tuned in. He's asking you a question right here. He's saying, being at 3 different HBCUs in different areas, what or how do you adapt?
Best advice I ever got. Dr. Billy C. Hawkins he at Talladega, one of the greatest presidents that I've ever met in HBCU. He's always about community. You want to adapt fast. It's really getting to meet the people in your community, and I'm not talking just on campus, but off campus. You want to be able to get out there and talk to people, let people know who you are and where you're at. It kind of starts that way. And then again, you start to invite people in, other high school coaches, junior college coaches, and that kind of spreads the word. That's how it kind of starts. I mean, now, social media is a big piece, having something consistent. So people, again, know what your program is about, what you're looking for. If, it's also great, to be able to get into the high schools, in the middle schools. So that's what I've done. Community service is a big piece of what we do anyway in our program, because branding is huge.
Yes,
if all your players are doing is just hooping, they're playing, that's not realistic in the world. They have to be able to do both. So I think, question, Coach Huff is bringing up that's something that I've been able to do. It makes it a little bit easier when you're getting to, things that you're looking for, or when you're talking about sponsorships and things like that. It makes it a little bit easier because they kind of have an idea who you are.
I like that. Coach, I'm going to put you on the spot, and it's nothing major on this. I'm a defensive guy, and, with me being a defensive guy, I always talk principles. How important is it for someone to come in and know those man principles off the rip instead of you having to teach them?
Well, I'll tell you what, it takes it's nice. I think no matter, it's great that they have the principles, but every coach has a wrinkle into what they do. They have
absolutely.
a philosophy, but it makes it a lot easier when they do know the defensive principles, because then you don't have to. I mean, you're still gonna rep it, but the cohesiveness comes a little faster. Things move a little, like, so if you're trying to break up your practices, with your offensive defense, well then things work a little smoother. But at the end of the day, that's, again, I go back to the recruiting part. Those are things that you look at, like what type of defense, or did you play in more of a zone program, or was it more man-to-man, full court press? What did you do? So those are things you definitely want to look, but it's very important, very, very important.
Okay, I like that. So, and especially with you being down in Florida, because Florida's known for those athletes down there. So, I would have to assume that plays to your style of play. You want that controlled chaos, you want that up tempo, you want that press, you want those turnovers, you want to speed the game up. So, you want somebody that's able to know where they need to be, what their assignments are, what your wrinkles are to the defensive principles as well, because everybody has their secret sauce, as to say, that they like to add, that are maybe a little different from high school. A lot of times in AAU, you don't see too much defense a lot of times, but when you see somebody that can sit down and play straight up man, you can say, hey, I can take that person and institute them in Florida Memorial's program.
Absolutely. And I mean, and that's what we look for. This is what happens. You're gonna play a lot of teams that are not as fast as you. They slow everything up. And you got to be able to be almost like hybrid. You got to be able to play in full court and half court. And then is no matter how athletic they are, again, it does come back down to the principles. How many times you can touch, how are you sliding your feet? So, are you talking? If you're not talking, you're not going to be able to make it. You're not going to play. You're not going to play for me. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. A silent person is basically letting me know that you don't want to play. And my players know that. And our staff. I mean, that is, as you are a defensive coach, is the same thing with us. That's a primary thing. We eat off our defense. We completely eat off of it. And if we're not having a good defensive game, most likely, we're going to come up short, or it's going to be a lot tougher than it needs to be. So we really believe in just getting stops. If you're a great rebounding team, we believe in getting 3 stops 7 times. If we're able to do that in a game, we have pretty much of an 85 to 90% chance of winning a game, and we know it. So we count it out. 3 stops in a row, boom, that's one. Let's get another one. And so we break the game down like that, instead of saying, hey, we're just gonna we're gonna stop them. No, we want to be able to break it down by quarters. Okay, how many stops are we in this quarter, so they can actually see it. So there's always a goal that they're trying to reach and stretch to, and we do that almost in every category.
Okay, and another question, and I definitely wanted to put this out there. Does Florida Memorial have graduate programs there?
They do. One of the things I like, and off the top of my head, I don't know all of them yet. I'm still learning.
That's fine.
What's amazing is their grad programs can go for 1 year, so you can finish in a year. And to me, from an athletic side of things, to be able to get players, student athletes that can come in, they can get the work in, and then continue to move on. 2 years, I mean that's great. But if you can finish in a year, I'd take the 1 year. I'd take the 1 year. So that to me is an advantage, and being able to do it here in the beautiful space of Miami is you can't beat it.
Man, that's a huge plus for you right there. That means you can grab grad transfers. But I asked that because I asked this for life after basketball. Do you have grad assistants there as well?
Actually, I'm bringing she's getting ready to graduate at Langston. Actually, I'm getting ready to go see 6 of my players, because again, player coach relationship is really important to me. It's a priority for me. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go see them, watch them walk. But one of the graduating seniors, she will come here and be a grad, and I'm looking forward to a straight A student. She wants to be an attorney one day, so I mean she's going to get there.
Okay. Man, that's big to hear you still support your players like that. And on top of that, be able to help give that opportunity to reach her goal off the court. And like you said, that's what this is supposed to be about. Don't get me wrong. Of course you want to win, and you've been doing a good job of that. But it's not after 4 years. Well, thank you for your service. Come back, when you get a chance. No. And like you said, you want to see them walk. You want to see them be successful. You want to see them get married, have kids, whatever the case may be. They're sending you cards. Coach, thank you for being such a big part of my life.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I thought when you were winning championships, and I've won a few of them, and when you win them, I thought that was like such a great feeling. But when you see kids time after time, crossing the stage, getting their degree, and you're watching them, like you said, you're progressing through life. I just don't think there's anything bigger than that. Not for me in my time of coaching right now. Like that's what I look for, and when we sign a player and we already know what they want to do, we don't start waiting till the senior year. We start preparing them when we get them, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, whatever. We start working on it immediately, because if we just focus just on the basketball, that's what they're going to do. They're going to really, really focus on it. They'll focus on their grades, but when you're talking about making those connections, and this is again what makes FMU so special. Miami is really just it's just an endless opportunity of being able to connect and network throughout Florida. So whatever you want to get into, and I feel like as a coach, that's our job to help them with people that they are to be, whatever profession they want to get into. And I think this is a great place to be able to do that. So that to me is where it makes me happy. That's a passion for me to help them get where they're going.
Okay. And when you said early in this interview, when you said mentorship, I was going there, some point in this interview because I could see the passion you have for that, and I think that's great because, like I say, I come across coaches from all over, and it's not to say they're not bad people, but sometimes the emphasis is so big of sports related and not life related, and I'm just big on that because, man, this is over in 4 or 5 years max. Then what? And you see a
Goes
lot
by
of people
fast.
they hang on to yesteryear per se, and it's time to move on with your life. What are you going to do? And even when I've done interviews, when I interview kids, I say, well, what do you want to do? What's your plan for the future? Sometimes I get that bewildered look like, what do you mean? And I'm like, listen, as we just said, 4 years are going to be here. What are you going to do? And I'm not so much on the women's side because, kudos to the young ladies. A lot of times they have that plan, but especially on the boys' side, it's, oh, hey, I'm trying to go overseas, or, I'm trying to, look at my pro options. And we know that's like the lottery right there. Like you're not going to, I don't want to crush anybody's dream, but not too many are fortunate enough to go pro. Let's put it like that. And what's the backup option? And then by that time, like you said, they're 2 years, 3 years removed from school, and they're still trying to find themselves because they've invested so much into saying, hey, I'm trying to go pro, but there was no backup plan. And sometimes I don't want to say that's on the coach, but I look at it like when it's mentored and it's fed into them at an early, freshman year per se. It's, hey, I need to think about this, not, oh, senior night's coming up. What you going to do? And that's the first time they really heard that. No, we failed them. We failed them not just as a university or a community. We failed them. That should have been talked about from high school, middle school. And by the time they got to college, it's, hey, yes, play, go do your thing. This is important, but also you need to be also thinking about this as well because this will be over soon.
Absolutely. I mean, I see it all the time. I know, unfortunately, there some coaches will dangle that, that candy or that out in front of them and say, hey, you can go pro. And they say it and they go, oh, okay. And you can help me get there. And then they go.
Yes.
And, those things just don't happen. And another thing is a lot of players don't, it's all sensationalized. They see, again, they're watching social media. It looks cool, fun, but they're not looking at the stuff that's behind the closed doors. All the work that you got to put in. And then on top of that work, you still may not make it. There's a lot of politics, there's business, a lot of people don't know that, these overseas teams, what they look for, they really do want to have college graduates.
Mm-hmm.
Are you marketable? Some people if, here's the other part. You go overseas, you may have an interpreter. You may not have a good interpreter. Do you understand what the tax laws are over there when the money exchange? But they're not thinking about any of that stuff. So again, that's what college is for, to get that experience, to understand that when you leave, you can handle yourself on your own. But that's stuff that does not get talked about. They, again, lean just on their basketball and not anything else. And you can ask any professional basketball player, I don't care how good they are, they're going to tell you the same thing. I mean, it's a business. And you have to be able to know your business on both ends. The ones that don't make it or get there and flame out is because their business wasn't right, and they're not going to keep you. You're not marketable. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's the tough part about it.
And so one of the questions, I mean, I know we're talking education and we're talking about life as well. How do you, the NAI doesn't have a portal per se. So what's going to be your approach now for, like you said, you're looking at every option. So you really don't have a portal to jump into and say, oh, this kid's in the portal. Let me go ahead and grab them. Yes, there are some services that are doing that now, but they're not all the way there yet. So it's kind of, you seem like you're very well put together. What's going to be your way of, are you just going to go off of relationships? Are you just going to, because you can't see, you know, per se, that portal. You can't see it. So, and NAI doesn't have one. So we don't know who's who in NAI that's interested in coming to Florida Memorial. How are you going to adjust to that? I mean, you already have because you're coming from NAI. So it's not like this is coming from NCAA to NAI.
Well, I'll give some advice to coaches out there, younger
Okay.
coaches that haven't been in the game for a bit. So you just hit on it. You talked about relationships. So I would advise any young coaches, um, connecting with and networking. Go to the Final Four. You should go every year. Get to know who this is. Not about really about the head coaches. That's nice to know. Get to know the assistant coaches, the ones that are
Mm-hmm.
doing the recruiting. They can't take everybody. And
Yep.
when you start to build those relationships, whatever division it is, and you develop a business relationship, you'll get the phone calls. You'll say, hey, this kid, we can't take her. She's got this, or we're full, and then you begin, and you got to do that on every level, high school, junior college, 4 year, and that's how you can recruit. And people will say that maybe that's old school, but I'll just say this: relationships is an all time thing. That will never go away.
Ever.
So the relationships you build is forever, and being professional and really just don't call them, when you need some, really reach out, and make those conversations and make those relationships, and will take you a very long way. Because you're right, who knows when the NAI will have a portal. Yeah, you can't see the, NCAA portal, but the relationships, you can see everything through the relationships, and that helps.
Correct. Hmm. I like that. And, I'm just really picking your brain. So, for people that aren't familiar with the NAI, that's why I like talking to you. So, you can pretty much open the curtain to say, hey, this is how it is on this side. And now, one of the other questions I have for you from an NAI perspective, um, it's not just 5 years. It's from an eligibility standpoint. Let's say someone didn't work out, they took a year off. Does that really affect their eligibility from an NAI standpoint? They still would have those 3 years or whatever left, correct?
Correct. So what you're really looking at, how they look at it, is it's either 4 years or 10 full-time semesters.
Correct.
That's
Hmm.
what they. That's how they break it down. And to me, you know, when players, whether they people get caught up in these divisions.
Hmm.
But one of the things I do like about the NAI, tremendously, is you know they do believe in academics, but they're not going to just like, if some, it gives you a little bit more freedom to not just get cut down because you don't have this or you don't have that, and which I like, because some kids, you know they made a mistake, some didn't work out, and then they can't get to that next level that they're trying to get to. The NAI is very good about second chances, and I think they give you a broad range to be able to get it. So minimum of a 2.0, I mean, you should be able to get that,
Yeah,
and from there you can move on. So I think that's a great thing that NAI does.
I agree. To be honest, I think the NCAA should, or D2 pretty much has what you're saying. But I think that should be across the board for D1, D2, D3, NAI. It's a great rule to have because sometimes it's so stringent, and sometimes these kids are right at the cusp of graduating, and I hate to see where that it took 5.5 years per se, and they don't have the money for that semester to graduate. Now, listen, there's some schools and some coaches like yourself that say, hey, come on staff, be a student assistant, or whatever the case you can do to help out. But it always just pains me to see a kid that's that close, and I'm not going to say they get dropped off per se, but for whatever reason, when you're under 20 credits, 25 credits, you right there. And like you said, your belief is to see that kid finish what they started. And it's just me when I see that, I'm like, man, what can we do? And don't get me wrong, and it's not everybody, because some people, they played around and they're in that situation. I get
Absolutely.
it, but there's some where it pulls at your heartstrings sometimes. We're like, man, what can we do to really help this person? And I love when there's schools that say, hey, we're going to help them. Sometimes by that time they are 24 or 25, whatever the case. So now they can file as independent. They can get some money, and sometimes if their grades are okay, the school can get them some educational money as well.
Yeah, I know sometimes we forget about, as coaches we do. We because we're so competitive,
Yeah.
the way that we want to win, but we can't forget what this is all really about, is getting those
Exactly.
kids to graduate, because they're depending on you, to help them, in
To
some
put
way. They
them
got
in
to
the right
do the
direction.
work. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not doing your work. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, yeah, I ain't doing your work. But at the end of the day, helping them, guiding them to, get them to finish, especially if this is, they want this. I mean, there should
Yeah.
be always a way to help them get there, because without it, it just, it makes life just that much more difficult, to get through without that piece of paper. I mean, it just
Yeah.
is.
I I couldn't agree. And as we start to wind this up a little bit, Coach, I've asked you a couple questions, but from a recruiting standpoint, and for people that are watching, why Florida Memorial over any other school? What's your recruiting pitch? Why Florida Memorial?
Wow. I guess the question to answer is, why not
Okay.
Florida Memorial? It's, again, tremendous amount of opportunities here, whether it's on campus or off campus. Just the amount of nationalities that are here, from all over the world, that come here to study. I think it's amazing. I don't know if there are this many HBCUs that are this cultural, this diverse at an HBCU. It's amazing. And again, the athletic department also. Um, I think AD Jason Horn does a phenomenal job. Um, he comes from a D1 program, and if you ask me, he runs it like a D1 program. And to me, that this is my D1, if there is such a thing. And I think every athlete here, has a real shot at excelling. One of the things that one of the things that made me say, "Oh, this is it for me," was I saw that how much value they have in each and every one of their student athletes, not just males, but also females
Yeah.
across the board. So when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, that's somewhere I need to be." And I'm very, very excited to be here. I'm blessed to be here, and I'm just excited to work with some great coaches. Again, Coach Thomas, men's basketball. Again, got here, laid out the red carpet for me. The football staff, soccer, softball, baseball, everyone, track. volleyball, everybody like really works like a family. They work hard, and they get the job done. And while they're doing all that, they're having a great time with their student athletes. And to me, that's what it's really about.
Absolutely. Hey man, I'm impressed that look, you got me ready. Let me see if I got a little bit of eligibility left as well. But no, I mean, but that's what this is all about. And that's why I wanted to bring you on. So for people that don't know Florida Memorial, I mean, obviously with your last couple of stops, you're blessed to be able to reach out to even more areas. And boy, I mean, boy, as soon as you said you got Heaven Jordan, I said, oh boy, he all over the place now. And that's a good thing, especially you said something that hit home, and Coach Huff knows this as well. You do a great job with that social media presence. That's it's so big, and HBCUs, we're getting better to see HBCU's presence with social media, but it plays such a big part. And nowadays it's helping you get recruits as well.
Oh, absolutely. My former school, we would put, and a lot of people, I did it. Well, I would put a lot of our training videos, like our preseason lifting, running. So, people would see that, and high school coaches and junior college coaches was like, Coach, man, I really appreciate you putting this stuff out because our kids don't know what the next level looks like. So I didn't realize that that's what people were looking at, and I'm just trying to build, hey, this is what we do, this is what our program is about. But I didn't realize how much it was educating players. And I've gotten, and because there's times I can't do it all the time, I just stop because I'm focused on the program, but I'll get DMs or texts like, hey coach, what's going on, you guys not putting anything up? And I'm like, oh man, I forgot. But no, social media is a definitely an advantage if you use it correctly. It's certainly helped us. So it's just not one thing. You gotta connect the dots in everything.
Absolutely.
Community, social media, again, networking with coaches. Working with the different programs. So I mean, that's what makes the advantage.
I what you said earlier, I mean, you said some buzzwords, and the buzzword you said for me is branding. And your branding right there, yes, all of this is a part of it, but sometimes people don't understand the importance of not just one thing. I don't want people to think, oh, it's only social media or bust. No, but like you said, it's your complete branding. You're going out there with community service. Of course, you're winning. Of course, you're recruiting. So you're out there and people actually see you physically because, we still have some coaches that are still in the older times of relationship recruiting, and yes, that's important, but no, you got to get out there and be seen. So all of that ties in, and you're doing all that, and that's where you're enjoying the success you are right now.
Well, I'm like I said, it's definitely going to be. I love this challenge. I love the challenge. To help this team become a perennial winning team. And again, it's not always going to be good days. It's a part of it.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to challenge. I've got two great assistant coaches coming on, and I cannot wait for them to start working with the players. We'll be out here in the summer, going to summer school, training as well. It's 8 weeks, so
Okay.
that's an advantage, for us. So we're getting ready.
And rightfully so. Once that schedule comes out, make sure you send me that schedule. I wouldn't mind trying to catch that St. Thomas Florida Memorial game because that's that rivalry across the street game. I know that one's going to be packed.
Yeah, coach is a great coach. I've definitely admired what she's been doing. And again, like I said, the conference, it's a good conference. And, that's another thing. I looked at that too, looking at, where you're playing. And like I said, all these coaches, they know what they're doing, and they have pride in their programs. And we're another one that has pride in our program. And we look to put them in the right direction.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, thank you so much for coming on tonight. For listeners, Florida Memorial is a very valuable option, and definitely, how can they reach out to you before I let you go? For people that are interested in knowing more about Florida Memorial, how can they reach out to you? Do you want them to reach out through social media? Do you want them to email you? How do you want them to reach out to you?
I mean, they can go to the website. They can go to the Florida Memorial website. You can find me on Twitter. I think I'm KH Harrod or K Harrod 2 on Twitter or something like that. But you can find me. I'm not hard to find at all. I know Deion Sanders, which I'm not. I'm really not. But again, if you want to play for a great staff, a great school, please come see me. Reach out to me. Always looking for great players, great student athletes with great character. And then I mean it. So that's where they can find me.
Absolutely. Hey man, thank you so much for coming on tonight, man. I enjoyed this one, man. And like I said, if Huff speaks highly of you, you're good with me.
Coach,
definitely
great.
good with me.
Well, thank you again, David. It was an honor to be on your show anytime.
Anytime. And yeah, we'll definitely be in touch too soon, man. You take care, okay?
All right, you too. Thank you.
All right. Listen, I enjoy speaking with him. And, when you come across guys of good character, and he touched on something that was so important. Relationships are so important in this college game. Whether you're a player or a coach, you never know who's going to impact your life in a certain way. Sometimes, well, hopefully for the good as well, but a lot of people can help you that you have no idea. So you always want to make sure you leave a good impression on somebody. That's going to do it for tonight, man. Thank you guys for coming on tonight as usual. Episode 81. We got some good ones lined up for episode 82 and 83, and it's going to be right before we get to the live period in May 17th on the women's side. And actually this weekend, it's not quite a live period, but you have EYBL, you got Under Armour and Adidas that have some things going on. So I'll be out on the road taking a look at some players, and not just club players or grassroots players. I look at the independent, not only shoe. I look at everybody because everybody's not fortunate to play on these shoe teams as well. So you all have a good night. I will catch you all next Monday. We got a great show planned for Monday. So check in Monday, and you all have a good week. You take care. I'm David Jones. Good night.